Tonight, I want you to watch how power really works in Washington. Not through speeches, not through hearings, but through one simple move: sending everybody home. Because this is the story behind the headline: MAGA Mike shuts down the House. And here's what makes it bigger than a scheduling fight. It lands right on top of Trump's most dangerous political weak spot: healthcare costs. The Affordable Care Act premium tax credits, the enhanced version that kept millions of Americans' premiums low, expired at the end of 2025. And the math is brutal. KFF estimates that without those enhanced credits, what subsidized marketplace enrollees pay in premiums in 2026 would more than double on average, from about $888 in 2025 to about $1,904 in 2026. That's not a talking point. That's rent money. So when a small group of Republicans broke ranks and helped trigger a procedural path to force a vote on extending those credits, it created a nightmare for GOP leadership and for Trump's messaging. And the response, according to the reporting and the public record, wasn't subtle. Cancel votes, compress the calendar, and try to keep the story from becoming a live, televised rebellion. But the rebellion happened anyway. And the vote happened anyway. And it exposed something important. Trump can still dominate the party, but he can't always control the math. So tonight, we're going to do three things. 1, we'll lay out the exact timeline with dates and votes. 2, we'll explain the key weapon in this fight, the discharge petition, and why 218 is the number that makes speakers sweat. And 3, we'll analyze Trump's incentive structure here, what he wanted, why it backfired, and what the GOP Revolt tells you about 2026. This is political analysis based on public reporting, official vote counts, and nonpartisan estimates. When I cite facts, I'll attribute them. When I infer motives, I'll label it as analysis. Let's start with the clean timeline. Step 1, December 17, 2025. House Republicans passed a GOP healthcare bill, 216 to 211, but it did not extend the expiring ACA tax credits. CBS reported that same day that leadership canceled Friday votes, and Thursday was the last day in session for the year. That matters because those tax credits were set to expire at the end of the year, December 31st. Step 2, also on December 17th. 4 centrist Republicans signed on to a Democratic-led discharge petition that would force a House vote early in the new year on a clean 3-year extension of the enhanced ACA subsidies. That was reported by the Associated Press and other outlets. Step 3, January 1st, 2026. The enhanced tax credits are now expired. Premiums rise for many people who buy marketplace coverage. The story shifts from might happen to is happening. Step 4, January 8th, 2026. The discharge petition route succeeds in forcing action. The House passes a bill extending the enhanced premium tax credits for 3 years by a vote of 230 to 196. Multiple outlets reported that 17 Republicans joined all Democrats to pass the measure, including AP coverage distributed widely and reporting from ABC and CBS. Now, that House vote does not end the story. The Senate path is uncertain, but politically, the damage is already done. It puts Republicans on the record, and it puts Trump's posture under a spotlight he does not control. Now, why does the phrase "shut down the House" keep showing up? Because for a speaker, controlling the calendar is controlling the battlefield. If you keep members scattered, you slow coalitions. You reduce surprise votes. You reduce awkward TV moments where your own party defies you on camera. On December 17th, CBS noted leadership canceled Friday votes, effectively ending the session early. And here is the strategic idea. If your biggest threat is a procedural tool that ripens over time, delaying the House schedule can look like a way to run out the clock, or at least manage the headlines. But in this case, time was the enemy, because the tax credits were expiring at the end of 2025. Once January arrives, the story changes from procedural fight to premium shock. So the speaker wasn't only fighting Democrats, he was fighting a calendar, and a bill. Here's the procedural engine of this story in plain English. In the House, leadership usually decides what gets a vote. A discharge petition is one of the rare tools that can bypass leadership and force a bill to the floor if you collect enough signatures. The number you need is 218, a majority of the House. And that's why 4 Republicans mattered so much on December 17th. Because if all or nearly all Democrats sign, you only need a small number of Republicans to cross over and hit 218. That's exactly what happened with the petition to extend the ACA tax credits. There are multiple public statements and press releases describing that the petition reached 218 signatures, with 4 Republicans providing the threshold. Now, here's the key political point. When your own party signs a discharge petition against you, it's a public admission that leadership failed to manage the issue internally. And once you've hit 218, leadership can't pretend it's a fringe complaint. It becomes a countdown to a vote. So the MAGA Mike shuts down the House framing is really about this. Johnson's leverage is not persuasion, it's process. But process only works until the votes are there. Now we get to Trump. Here's the most important fact you need. Trump's public posture on ACA subsidies has been skeptical, and Reuters reported in late 2025 that Trump said he would prefer not to extend the Obamacare subsidies, even as advisors discussed options and lawmakers debated short-term extensions. That puts him in a classic Trump position. He wants the political benefit of lower costs without owning the policy mechanism that lowers costs. So what is the strategy? In politics, you do one of 2 things when you face a popular benefit you don't want to support. Either you claim credit for it, or you reframe it as fraud, waste, or a handout. Then you offer an alternative. Republicans argued their broader health plan would help 100% of Americans, rather than only marketplace enrollees. That was part of the messaging reported around the December 17th vote. And some Republicans pushed ideas like shifting support toward health savings accounts or other mechanisms, while Democrats pushed a clean extension. So if you're Trump, the ideal scenario is no clean extension. Premium pain becomes visible, and you blame Democrats for Obamacare while offering your own replacement. But here's the problem. That strategy depends on party discipline, and the discipline cracked. Because moderate Republicans in swing districts looked at the premium numbers and saw something Trump doesn't face in those districts, a constituents bill. They may agree with Trump on a lot of things, but they don't want to be the face of a premium doubling story back home. Now let's talk about the math, because this is what makes the revolt rational. KFF estimates that if the enhanced premium tax credits are not extended, subsidized marketplace enrollees' premium payments would more than double on average, a 114% increase from about $888 in 2025 to about $1,904 in 2026. And the Congressional Budget Office has projected that if the enhanced subsidies are not extended, millions more people would be uninsured. One widely cited estimate is about 3.8 million per year on average over the 2026 to 2034 period. Now, those are big numbers, but what makes them politically lethal is that they translate into a very simple voter experience. I paid X last year, now I pay 2X. And it's not just policy groups saying it. Reuters recently reported that as the subsidy debate drags on, premiums for ACA plans were expected to more than double in the KFF estimate. And even insurers like United Health have talked about rebates to customers in this environment. This is why healthcare has the power to break partisan discipline. It's not abstract, it's monthly. So why did Johnson lose control in the way your rival channel frames it? Because the speaker's job is to prevent 2 things from happening at once. 1, a vote that splits the majority. 2, a vote that creates a clean campaign attack line. The discharge petition created both risks. First, it split Republicans publicly. 4 Republicans signing the petition in December, then 17 Republicans voting with Democrats in January. Second, it created the cleanest possible attack line. Republican leadership let your subsidies expire, and your premiums surged. And that's why the calendar and the process became so important. If you can delay the vote, you can delay the TV images. If you can delay the TV images, you can delay the narrative. But you can't delay the premium bill. Now, to be fair, Republicans have their arguments. They argue that the enhanced subsidies are expensive. They argue the marketplace has faced fraud and improper enrollments. They argue a clean extension doesn't fix underlying costs, it just subsidizes them. And some of that is a legitimate policy debate. How do you control costs versus subsidize costs? But the political problem for Trump and Johnson is timing, because the credits didn't expire in a vacuum. They expired during an affordability crisis where voters are intensely sensitive to monthly bills. So even if your long-term policy critique is valid, your short-term political exposure is immediate. People feel it now. And that's why you saw Republicans break ranks. Here's the deep analysis. Trump's strength is message discipline through fear and loyalty. But his weakness is that he often treats policy as narrative. And healthcare is one of the few areas where the narrative can be punctured by a bank statement. The Revolt tells you that even in a Trump-era GOP, there is still a line where members choose local survival over national messaging. And that is why this story matters beyond healthcare. It's a case study of where the Trump coalition can fracture when real-world costs hit voters directly. Scenario 1, Senate stalemate. The House passes the extension, but the Senate demands conditions, caps, or structural changes. The issue drags on, meaning the premium pain persists, and both parties weaponize it. Scenario 2, compromise extension. A shorter extension or a conditioned extension emerges, something that lets Republicans claim reform while letting Democrats claim we saved subsidies. Scenario 3, Trump doubles down. Trump frames any clean extension as waste or fraud, pressures senators to block it, and tries to run the midterms on a replace Obamacare message, betting that anger at the system beats fear of premium hikes. Which is most likely? Right now, the House vote tells you compromise is possible, because 17 Republicans already crossed. But the Reuters reporting about Trump's preference not to extend tells you Trump may not want a clean win for subsidies. He may want leverage. So watch the next two signals. 1, do Senate Republicans propose a credible alternative that still prevents premium shock? 2, does Trump shift from don't extend to extend but on my terms? Here is the takeaway. MAGA Mike shutting down the House is a catchy headline, but the deeper reality is more revealing. Johnson tried to manage a revolt with process, and Trump tried to manage a vulnerability with messaging. And both ran into the same wall. The cost of healthcare doesn't wait for politics. When premiums jump, people notice. When people notice, members panic. And that's how you get a GOP revolt that forces a vote the speaker didn't want, on an issue Trump didn't want to own. Because in the end, this wasn't just a fight inside the GOP. It was a fight between narrative and arithmetic. And arithmetic has a habit of winning.